Chapter 1825. Extra Explanation. As a user of special abilities, she possesses a very special, barrier ability that can affect aliens at the level of Epsilon. Hearing Bada's words, she chuckled and said, "Don't worry. Once Azura dies, we will become people that Barada has to use. At that time, there will be plenty of opportunities to go to various underground ruins and find things like the source of the gods or the spirit of the sacrifice." Bada nodded, with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. After escaping many dangers with Gao Changkong, only the two of them survived to this day. Gao Changkong will definitely train him with all his heart. As for Guman, she's his girlfriend, so there's no need to say more. The battle between Azura and Gao Changkong took place thousands of times in an instant. He was filled with rage and wished he could poke Gao Changkong into a beehive. Gao Changkong held the golden holy sword in his hand with a smile on his face and calmly blocked every one of his moves perfectly. He had already simulated such a battle countless times in his mind. Every move of Azura was within his expectations. What's more, their current states are completely different. Azura's power is indeed strong, but this kind of battle that is calculated is inherently unfair. He attacked furiously. His attack was like a storm, trying to crush Gao Changkong. But the sky is like an island in a storm. It seems that only a small part of it is above the water, but in fact it is connected to the unfathomable seabed. No matter how Azura attacked, his rhythm was not disrupted at all. How could this happen? How could this happen? Azura was shocked. Such a development was hard for him to accept. How much have you hidden? Have you ever shown us your true strength since you came to Barada? Azura roared. Gao Changkong smiled faintly, saying, "Haven't you always been on guard against me? You said that I am an outsider, and I must learn to protect myself." Azura raised his trident high, and a terrifying pressure burst out from him. He condensed the most powerful force and threw it towards Gao Changkong. Shiva's trident attack can destroy everything. Gao Changkong's narrowed eyes revealed a slit. "I've told you before, everything you're doing now is just a last-ditch struggle. Everything is under my control. You can't escape from my grasp." He slowly raised his left hand, just like Tathagata Buddha opening his palm to grasp the Monkey King in his hand. Aquarius seal. He formed a seal with one hand and a treasure bottle condensed in his palm, with the mouth of the bottle pointing at Azura's trident. When the terrifying force approached Gao Changkong, it was automatically attracted to the bottle. As if there was some special connection between the two, the trident pierced the mouth of the vase. Boom! Azura opened his eyes wide and stared at his trident. His attack was so powerful that even Indra had to treat it with caution. Buzz! The trident and the Aquarius entered a state of confrontation, a collision of two forces, one fierce and the other soft. The bottle was shaking and seemed about to break at any moment. But Gao Changkong's expression remained steady. Gradually, the power of the trident weakened, and finally, it was taken away by Aquarius. Azura could not withstand such a blow, and took 3 steps back. The trident conjured up by his supernatural power possessed extremely powerful energy, which was more powerful than real metal weapons. However, this attack did not cause any harm to Gao Changkong. "You?" He pointed at Gao Changkong. Besides anger, he was also beginning to feel uneasy. He realized that he might really die here today. If it were in the past, he would not worry. After all, he possessed extremely strong vitality and could even survive with only his body left. However, today he experienced a series of battles. Demon God Gung is certainly terrifying, but those combat-type mechanical life forms are not easy to deal with either. If it were an encounter, the Black Chariot-level Inhumans who didn't understand their weaknesses might end up losing. Azura killed 3 super-large mechanical life forms by himself, which exhausted him greatly. "I've told you, don't struggle anymore. Don't worry, after you die, Indra will be the only one among the 8 divisions who can block my path. I know you have never been convinced by him. I promise you that sooner or later, I will take his place." There was a gentle smile on Gao Changkong's face, like a spring breeze, but at this moment it made Azura feel creepy. Gao Changkong's ambition has exceeded his imagination. What the other party was planning was not the slightest gain or loss, but the entire Bharata. Once he succeeds in replacing Indra and becoming the most powerful alien in Bharata, he can use this to coerce the entire Bharata's top leaders and make himself the ruler of Bharata. As for his identity, it doesn't matter. If necessary, the top leaders can fabricate his identity as a Kshatriya or even a Brahmin. At that time, let some great nobles issue a statement saying that he is a native of Bharata and has just returned from abroad. The lower-level believers will believe it directly. The more Asura thought about it, the more frightened he became, and his anger was difficult to contain. He pointed his finger at Gao Changkong angrily and cursed, "You are dreaming. Your ambition will never come true. Even if you kill me, you will never be able to defeat Emperor Shirtian. Your ability is not even a fraction of what Indra can do." The smile on Gao Changkong's lips deepened. "Thank you for thinking of me, but that's not what you need to worry about. The only thing you should do now is to die." The smile on Gao Changkong's face gradually faded. "After I came to Bharata, I absorbed your religious culture and comprehended the seventh seal of my heavenly dance wheel. Today, I will use this move to send you away." As he spoke, his body suddenly twisted strangely, as if he was doing yoga or an ancient dance. The sound of drums rang out, the drums beating loudly, as if cheering the soldiers on. Seal of world destruction. Behind Gao Changkong, illusory figures of Shiva appeared. It was an image of a god with a naked upper body and a black snake wrapped around his neck. He is the god of dance, and he also determines the destruction of all things in the world. As the world-destroying seal appeared, Gao Changkong's aura changed instantly. His eyes emitted a light of destruction, and his aura was even more terrifying than before. "Asura, let me take you on your way." The three great gods of Bharata, Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, represent destruction, creation, and balance respectively. The most powerful among them is the god of destruction Shiva. The world-destroying seal can directly enhance Gao Changkong's overall strength, raising all his abilities to a terrifying level. In this state, he can even temporarily fight against the white bishop-level alien. Although the price of doing so is that you will experience a period of weakness afterwards. But it's well worth it right now. He will not waste time to avoid unnecessary complications. Boom! The terrifying golden storm spread out with Gao Changkong as the center. He rushed towards Asura and chose a direct head-on attack. Asura knew that he could no longer escape. The vast snowfield of Fremons had long been a desolate place with no human habitation. His physical strength at this time was not enough to support him to escape back to Samran City. So he put everything aside and fought desperately. "Garuda, even if I die today, I will drag you to hell with me." Asura swung his fist and punched Gao Changkong. The collision of the two forces caused Gu-man, Batu, and others to retreat very far. This battle was extremely horrific. The enhanced Inhumans were very difficult to kill, and were also the most ferocious. It was difficult to kill them without completely destroying their bodies. Gao Changkong took advantage of everything, including time, location, and people, and it took him a full half-hour to kill him on the vast snowfield. He wiped the dust off his face, put the white handkerchief into his pocket, looked at the Asura in front of him, and said, as expected of Asura, "He is really hard to kill." At this time, Asura could no longer be described in human form. His body was chopped into pieces, but even his broken hands and feet could not stop him from continuing to fight. So he died a very miserable death at this time. Gao Changkong walked over and put his hand on Asura's forehead. Before death, that special power gathers in the head. If it is not absorbed in time, it will slowly dissipate into the sky. It may not disappear completely, but it will enter into nothingness. Gao Changkong placed his palm on it, and immediately a feeling of extreme comfort spread through his body, making the trace of fatigue on his face disappear immediately. He closed his eyes, his face full of pleasure, so enjoyable that he even moaned. Gu-man and Batu came over after he finished his work. Seeing the broken bodies on the ground, Batu shrugged and said, "Boss, you have to think about how to explain it to them when you go back. It's not that hard to explain. Just say that the mechanical army had a backup plan and Ashura died fighting against them. In addition, his eyes looked into the distance. In addition to the three of them, there were more than 10 people at the scene, including not only Ashura's but also his Garudas. It's just that they have all become puppets now. Even among the men under Bharata's command, Gao Changkong never treated them as his own people. Among these people, there are undercover agents sent by Indra to monitor him. Kill them all. Gao Changkong stood up. Without any further ado, the sun-will sword appeared in his hand, and he swept it out. The sharp sword light swept across those dazed puppets, directly smashing them to pieces. The sky was filled with blood. Now on the battlefield, only Gao Changkong and 3 others are left. Guman smiled and said, "They are all dead, so there is no evidence. But it will definitely arouse Emperor Shirtion's suspicion. What should we do?" Gao Changkong smiled and shook his head. "No, he won't doubt me. Even if he does, he won't do anything." If he had not been unsure, he would have even wanted to keep Emperor Shirtion here after he defeated the demon god Gung. However, the other party was a prophet after all, and he did not want to do anything without certainty while facing the seriously injured Indra and Ashura at the same time. But killing Ashura has brought him one step closer to gaining supreme power in Bharata. He knew Indra very well. He was a genius, but also an extremely arrogant person. He is called a prophet and possesses the ability of time. He can see through a person's past and the general direction of his future and browse through the person's life like flipping through a novel. So he felt that no one could have secrets in front of him. Gao Changkong's meditation seal is a time ability that is one of his many abilities. He can only speculate the most likely future based on the existing clues. Although it sounds uncertain, it is a lower-level ability of Indra. However, even lower-level abilities can affect Indra's judgment of him. Indra had complete confidence in his abilities and believed everything he predicted. Gao Changkong can use his blind arrogance to cover himself. If I was facing that guy, I would definitely not dare to do this. Gao Changkong couldn't help but think of Zhang Yi. He slowly narrowed his eyes with a hint of fear in his eyes. "Are you talking about Zhang Yi's?" Guman asked. Gao Changkong nodded. Although that guy's time ability may not be stronger than Emperor Shirtion, the most dangerous thing is him. He suddenly smiled and said to the two of them, "If Zhang Yi had doubts about me, he wouldn't even need any evidence and would choose to kill me directly. Can you believe it? He will kill me and then make up some excuse to cover it up." The two nodded in tacit understanding. When they thought of what they had experienced with Zhang Yi, their expressions became much more serious. "If one day we want to return to Huashu country, he will be our biggest obstacle." Bada sighed like this. Gao Changkong didn't comment. He just turned around and said to the two of them, "Let's go. It's time for us to go back. Go back and give a good performance." Bharata also successfully defeated the mechanical army led by the demon Gung and returned to Samran City. But the first thing he did after returning was to close the door and refuse visitors and let his medical aliens treat him. To be honest, Zhang Yi was a little surprised when he received the news. He really wanted to let the alien from Bharata die in the battle. But I didn't expect those guys to be so powerful that they could even kill the demon god Gung. According to the ranking, demon god Gung's strength should be similar to that of demon god Gui, perhaps slightly stronger. But a white bishop would have a hard time dealing with lower-level demons. I don't know how that guy did it, Zhang Yi thought with some regret. Deng Shintong smiled and said, "Please, Bharata attaches great importance to this opportunity to make a name for himself in the international community. They directly sent the first and second strongest people among the 8 tribes to come." And he narrowed his eyes carrying a hint of hostility. "There is also Gao Changkong. That guy ranks in the upper middle among the 8 tribes, but I can guarantee that he is definitely not as simple as he looks." Zhang Yi nodded. "You're right. That guy is the most insidious and the best at disguising himself. During his time in Blizzard City, he had used his disguise to deceive everyone. Until he later launched a rebellion, many people refused to believe that the captain of the Samsara squad, who had once devoted himself to everyone and worked hard without complaint, had actually launched a rebellion. But then again, only the top executives headed by Zhu Jing think so. To this day, in the hearts of many lower-class people in Blizzard City, he is probably still a hero, or even a hope. Not long after, Gao Changkong returned with Gu Man and Batu. When they came back, they were in a very miserable state, covered in blood, their faces were pale, and they looked seriously injured. Several people staggered to the camp where the Barada alien team was located. When the alien guarding the gate saw the three of them, he couldn't help but be surprised. Because they knew that the celestial beings had followed Indra back, but there were still dozens of Asuras and Garudas left on the battlefield. But why did only Gao Changkong and the other two come back? What about others? Naturally, these strange people did not dare to ask Gao Changkong. But Gao Changkong directly said to them, "Hurry up and report to Emperor Shirtian that Azura was killed in the battle." The faces of several strangers suddenly changed, finding it hard to believe this fact. One person hurriedly ran to find Indra. At this time, Indra was sitting on the bed with some tubes inserted into his body, receiving treatment. His physical injuries are not a big problem. With today's medical technology and Barada's medical skills, he can be cured quickly. However, if you want to restore your vitality and lost supernatural energy, you have to use this special method. The man came to Indra's residence and ran to him after receiving the message. Seeing his panic-stricken expression, Indra realized that something bad had happened. "What's wrong?" He tried his best to face the subordinate with a warm smile. "Lord Emperor of Heaven, Lord Garuda just came back, and he said... The stranger stammered, unable to speak. The subordinate next to Emperor Shirtian said in a deep voice, "What did he say?" Everyone in the room felt that something was wrong. The aliens in the Tianzhong were the elite among the elite, and each of them had experienced hundreds of battles. And when he behaved in such an inappropriate manner, something terrible must have happened. The alien lowered his head, clenched his fists, and said in a trembling voice, "Azura die in battle." What? There was a cry of surprise in the room. They couldn't believe that the extremely powerful man was dead. The smile on Emperor Shirtian's face disappeared in an instant. He stared at the strange man who delivered the message, thinking rapidly in his mind. He was not expecting Azura's death, but he still remembered that he was seriously injured and had to leave the battlefield immediately. The situation on the battlefield at that time was not optimistic. At least those powerful mechanical life forms that were not afraid of death still attacked the alien troops like a tsunami. Under such circumstances, casualties are inevitable. But how could it be Ashura who died? With his strength, he should be able to escape at least. Suddenly, Emperor Shirtian thought of something and looked up at the strange man. "Who's back?" The stranger replied. Only 3 people returned, Lord Garuda and his 2 followers. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became a little strange. There is no doubt that they suspected that this matter was related to Gao Changkong. Otherwise, why did Azura die in battle but they were able to survive? No one spoke, but looked at Indra, waiting for him to speak. Emperor Shirtian narrowed his eyes and said, "Let them come over." Could it be Gao Changkong? Indra was also confused, because it seems very likely that Gao Changkong did something. However, based on his understanding of Gao Changkong, the other party's strength should not be enough to kill Azura. After arriving in Fremons, he watched every battle of Gao Changkong. The ability index is only around 19,000 points, which is pretty good, but in such a complicated battlefield, it is already a bit difficult to ensure one's survival. How could he possibly kill Azura? Emperor Shirtian felt that something was fishy, so he called Gao Changkong over. Not long after, Gao Changkong and the other 2 came to his room. The 3 of them looked very weak, with bloodstains all over their bodies. Indra looked towards Gao Changkong and activated the ability of Time Overture without hesitation. Such a major event as killing Azura will definitely leave a significant mark in his life trajectory. If Gao Changkong had done it, Emperor Shirtian would have been able to see it. He had complete faith in his own abilities. But after some exploration, he did not find anything unusual. He only saw Gao Changkong fighting hard on the battlefield where flames were burning all over the earth. Not him. Emperor Shirtian's doubts about Gao Changkong disappeared. Since he thinks it is not, then it is definitely not. The prophet's power is absolute. What happened? Ashura, how did he die? Emperor Shirtian stared at Gao Changkong and asked word by word. Gao Changkong took a deep breath and explained in a deep voice. After you left, although we were fighting hard at first, the situation was leaning in our favor. But then, we encountered their reinforcements. We were already extremely exhausted at the time, and the sudden appearance of the army of mechanical life forms put us in a difficult situation. There seemed to be some sadness on his face. You should understand that if you are not here, only Ashura has the ability to fight against those super-large mechanical life forms. Having said this, he did not continue. It is obvious that Ashura had to take on the responsibility of taking on the main fighting force because of Indra's departure and finally died of exhaustion. But how did you three escape back? Indra narrowed his eyes and asked this question. Gao Changkong pondered for a few seconds before saying with a smile, "Since you have already killed the demon god Gung, why do you care about the remaining mechanical life forms? Let Fremons deal with it himself. I can't solve the chaos of the battlefield, and staying here will only add another corpse." The implication is that they escaped. The celestial beings glared at Indra, but their status did not allow them to reprimand Gao Changkong. Emperor Shirtian looked at Gao Changkong, his eyes becoming colder and colder. But soon he retracted his gaze. Back off. He waved vigorously at Gao Changkong.